So we are back on hunting grounds, and for this video I was kind of messing around with different builds, like different classes, different weapons in combination with a shock gauntlet to see what else is effective. So this is the Amazon running the Ghost specialization. So what Ghost does is it gives you bonus damage to melee weapons while it's done in cloak. So for example, you gotta be invisible, run up and do a melee weapon like a wrist blade attack, a sickle, or a hook attack or something like that, then you get bonus damage while you're doing the animation when you're invisible. So what I'm doing here is using the shock gauntlet to stun them, and while they're getting up, switch to the handheld plasma caster, aim and fire. There's enough time to get maybe 2 shots in there, but of course you have the option of doing a random melee attack in there. Like for example, you can do maybe 1 shot with the handheld plasma caster, then go for the wrist blade attack and then jump away. But it's really up to you, because every time you have to go invisible again, you're draining more energy. There is a chance to kind of regenerate energy in between this whole combination here. But if you want, you can go full on gauntlet and only handheld plasma caster. There's also enough time to do maybe 2 attacks with the melee, like a wrist blade, because it's so fast. But the stun effect of the shock gauntlet only allows maybe maximum 2 hits with the wrist blades before they can recover and parry you if you're in front of them. Since your gear points are pretty small, all I'm using is the Medicomp and the motion detectors, and as for the perks, I'm using protection, adrenal boost, and a large pouch. So then I tried another melee build with Cleopatra, running Tactician, Shock Gauntlet, and the Netgun. Now what Tactician does is you get bonus damage to enemies that are either interacting, netted, or trapped. So the benefit of this build is that when you stun them with Shock Gauntlet, switch over to the Netgun, and what the Netgun does, it's going to drain their HP a little bit, I think around 15 damage in total for a few seconds. So they're going to be netted for maybe, I'd say possibly 2 to 3 seconds, depends how fast they can tap the button to get out of it. But during that time, it ensures you can get maybe 2 or 3 hits with their wrist blades before they can pull out a knife and parry you. Even though this does make the Netgun a bit more easier and fun to use, there are 2 downsides. One is the limited ammo with the Netgun. There's only 15 rounds in there. The second downside is that after a few seconds, when you recover from the stun phase of the Shock Gauntlet, enemies can still run around, so you are going to miss some swipes here and there with the wrist blades. The other downside to this is that when you're doing melee attacks on the one person who's inside a net, the other players are going to shoot you with bullets or use a grenade, and that's going to hurt. So pick your shots in there. I'd say do 2 hits and then maybe jump out, just to be safe. Now, as for the gear with Cleopatra, I'm running the Medicomp, the drone, and the motion detector. And for the perks, I'm running the energy cell for more energy, also adrenal boost, and protection. So then I tried Mr. Black running the Wrathful specialization, Shock Gauntlet, and the Sickle. So what Wrathful does is it gives you bonus damage to your next melee attack, I think by 40%, where Ghost is 30%. Now Wrathful's bonus damage only activates when a fireteam member shoots you in the back. So after you hit someone with a Shock Gauntlet as they're going in the air, switch to your Sickle, run up and do 1 or 2 swipes. Depending how far you have to run towards them, you might have time for 1 or 2 hits. If you're lucky, maybe 3 before they recover and then parry you. So the Sickle does the single most damage with a single hit. So because other players are going to shoot you in the back as you're running towards the one who is in the stun phase of the Shock Gauntlet, your bonus damage from Wrathful is always going to be active in most cases. So that bonus damage is going to kick in on the first initial hit of the Sickle. Now for the gear, I was using the healing kit, motion detector, and audio decoy. And for the perks, I had protection, a large pouch, and adrenal boost. You can also use the Sickle with the Amazon Ghost class, which is also effective. So then I tried the Amazon Ghost build with the Shock Gauntlet in combination with the Katana Blade Sword. So this Katana causes a bleeding effect on the enemies, which is damage over time. And this one actually was quite fun, because the strategy here was to stun them with a Shock Gauntlet as they come down, switch weapons to the Katana, and then run up and do 1 or 2 swipes with the primary or secondary fire, and then jump out, come back in, and repeat. And since I'm using Ghost with Amazon, I get bonus damage from the first melee attack when I'm invisible, so the first swipe is going to do extra damage. While it's not the most damaging loadout for the Amazon build, it was actually quite different. It's yeah, a different strategy, and I kind of liked it. This is the one that I was having the most fun with actually, because, you know, like the bleeding effect is like free damage. So it's like hit them once or twice and then get out and escape and then come back in and repeat, you know, at a better time. So it was different, but I liked it actually. I did try the Katana sword with Mr. Black, but I feel his running speed is a bit slower than the Amazon, so there were a couple of times when I still kind of had trouble chasing them, even without the Gauntlet. So I thought, okay, I'll try the sword with the Amazon, and I thought, okay, it's a bit better. So that's why I recommend using the Katana sword with the Amazon and not Mr. Black. But I mean, Mr. Black does have a bonus melee damage as a character class, you know, just by default, so that might help. He also has Wrathful, but I mean, he does have slower running speed, so it's really up to you which one you want to use. Now for the gear, I was using the healing kit, or the Medicomp as they call it also, and the motion detector. The perks were Adrenal Boost, Large Pouch, and Protection. So then I switched over to Oni with Savage. Now this specialization heals you a percentage of your HP upon claiming the opponent's skull, either if they're alive or when they're down. When you do a fast claim, you get a short amount of HP, but doing a long claim gives you more HP. So the Crossbolt does really good damage, however the traveling speed is a bit slow. The other issue here is that pulling out the weapon like the Crossbolt and putting it in your hand is rather slow. And also, aiming is kind of slow. And if someone shoots you while you're guiding the projectile in the air, you drop your aim or you drop control of the Crossbolt in midair. Every time you shoot the Crossbolt, even though you have 3 shots with it, it's going to get stuck into a surface, a wall, or an object, and then you gotta go in and pick it up. Sometimes the Crossbolt does get stuck inside a big tree or some area where you cannot retrieve it. However, the Crossbolt does really big damage if you nail someone who's been stunned by the Shock Gauntlet. It is really good. There's also a button you can press to stop guiding the projectile in midair. The good thing about this feature is, if the Crossbolt is lined up with a target who is far away and you know it's going to hit, just cancel the guiding process and then jump away to safety. The reason you want to do this process is because when you cancel it, you gain control of your body much earlier, about maybe 1 second, and that 1 second could give you more time to escape any incoming damage from other fire team members who found your body. So for the gear, I have the healing kit, drone, and motion detector. As for perks, we have protection, fast hands, and adrenal boost. The reason I'm using fast hands perk on this build is because pulling out the crossbolt gun and then aiming takes a bit of time. This way, fast hands makes it a bit faster. So then I took the same Oni build and swapped out the Crossbolt for the Smart Disc because I thought, okay, we'll see how this fares up with the Crossbolt. The damage is pretty good. I think it's almost equal to the Crossbolt damage. Now the travel speed of the Smart Disc in midair is kind of slow, but you can press a button to make it go faster. But one good feature with the Smart Disc is that you can recall the Smart Disc in midair, and sometimes as you recall it, it does extra damage on the opponent. So that's a good thing. There were a couple of matches where I found that I lost control of the Smart Disc in midair because someone found my body. But this could have just been from the quality of players being better in some lobbies, because some players can find a cloaked predator standing still pretty easily. They just know what to look for. The Smart Disc can also penetrate multiple targets, so if you line your shots properly, you can get multiple enemies in a single shot. And also remember, the Smart Disc can be destroyed by the fire team if they find it. You do start the match with 3, but once those are gone, that's it. So that was kind of fun, trying different weapons in combination with the Shock Gauntlet and seeing which ones are still effective. I think the ones I had the most fun were the Crossbolt and also the Katana sword for the bleeding effect. So that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, leave a like on it, and I will see you in the next one.